Hey everybody, welcome to the Bass Shed Podcast. My name's Ryan Roberts. Today we're talking to Nadav Peled, good friend of mine and guitar player. We're going to talk about his band Ambessa Orchestra. It's an Ethiopian band. Ethiopian music. I don't know how many guys in the band are Ethiopian. We're going to talk about his upbringing in Israel, him going to New York to study jazz at the New School. And, he's got a lot to say about some instruments I didn't know about. Him and I have gotten together before when we're just getting lunch and playing through tunes and kind of hanging out and checking in with each other. And I remember one time specifically, he was telling me a lot about Ethiopian music and stuff, and I was just fascinated by it all because it's not something I had personally ever delved. And he knows a lot about it, and I was curious about it, and I was excited to have him on here, and so he could share all that stuff with you guys. What am I up to? I'm glad you asked. That's very considerate of you. And I'll tell you what I'm up to. I'm creating a lot of content for the website, and I apologize that it hasn't been faster. It's I'm doing this all by myself, and it's a lot of work. And so thanks for being patient with me, doing all the transcribing, creating courses, and a lot of times I just ask other friends that are bass players who play differently than me and are coming from a different perspective on music than I am. What are you guys into? I remember I did a session at a studio in LA, it's LAFX, and the engineer is also a bass player, and I was just checking in with him, like, yo man, like what are you doing? Like, what are you practicing? 'Cause I know what I'm personally working on, and I get so focused on that and kind of absorbed in that, that I don't, I lose perspective of what other people are working on out there, and, something that might be interesting to somebody else. Maybe I don't spend enough time on, or have already spent a lot of time on. I don't know. It depends on what the thing is. So that's what I'm doing. I'm creating content. I'm still finishing this blog on Jimmy Blanton. And if you guys are following me on Instagram, I've talked about it a few times on there. And I was fascinated by Jimmy. And then I really got into it, and I started getting distracted a little bit. And I was losing my focus when I was writing the thing, and I didn't know what I was doing. And I didn't really have kind of an angle or an approach that I really wanted. I didn't want to just talk about, what Jimmy Blanton did with Duke and kind of his gigs and where he came from before that. I didn't want to do that kind of just, personal review or personal essay thing on him. I feel like Jimmy Blanton was only Jimmy Blanton because of all the dudes that came before him, and that makes his impact more significant. But it also, he wouldn't have been there without the other guys. And there is a questionable thing. I haven't decided if I'm going to go down this. I haven't decided. Really, really researching the Walter Page, Jimmy Blanton walking bassline thing. I don't know. Some guys are saying Jimmy Blanton. A lot of guys are saying Walter Page. I put a quote in the blog where it comes from Walter. I've listened to some recordings, but just because it was on recording first, maybe, with Walter, it doesn't mean that Walter was the first dude to start walking a bass line. It's fascinating though. I don't know. I nerd out on that stuff. I nerd out on that stuff a lot. Like, this is something I would obsess over for 2 weeks, and not return calls, and not not hang out with actual people. Not call my mom back because I'm so consumed with trying to figure out if it was Walter Page or Jimmy Blanton that started walking first. Jeez, I gotta do something about that. I need a little bit more balance. Maybe only do 1 week on it. I'll obsess on it for a week. Maybe that's enough. Can you put boundaries on obsession? I don't know if that's still obsession, is it? I'm rambling. The blog's still happening. It should be coming out soon. I'm going to spend some more time on it. Try to get it out this week. I'm really trying to get it out this week. I'm out of town the next 2 days doing some gigs in Ventura with the jazz singer. That should be fun. And hopefully that'll give me a little bit of time to finish that thing up and get it out there. And so that's what's happening with the blog. Musically, I used to have this group called the A1A Project years ago. And the group, I stopped kind of getting behind it and really pushing for it, booking it and stuff. The saxophone player passed away, and he was one of my best friends. His name will come up, I'm sure, on this podcast from time to time. He was a brilliant musician, Zain Musa. Yeah, so he passed away, and I just kind of lost spirit for the group and couldn't touch it for a while. He was such a major part of that band. We did one gig after, I did a trio gig, and then the group was originally a quartet, and then I did one trio gig after, and so like I really didn't have to acknowledge, replacing him, or having someone. He's irreplaceable. Having someone else do the job. And then I did another gig with the group and had violin instead of Zane playing saxophone. And I think I'm gonna stick with the violin. I like the violin, and Paul Cartwright was the violin player. If he's got some time, I would love to have him as regular as possible in the group. And getting out of LA with it. I want to get out of LA. I'm gonna go up to do some gigs in the Bay, maybe San Diego, do some little regional stuff. Do a proper recording. We went in and did some tracks years and years ago. And they didn't come out great. Everybody was sight reading the session. They killed it. There's some recording issues with it, and it was difficult to get a good mix. But I'll go back in. It'll give me a chance to start writing again. I haven't written in a while. I kind of miss it. Then I listen back to. It's funny. Right after I write a thing, I'll play it and be like, yeah, or no. And if the tune doesn't land right then, like right when I play it with someone for the first time, I think I just got to scrap it. I've had a couple that have just been I've written and I've tried to tweak and really make work, and so much of it is working, but then there's a couple things that aren't. Yeah, sometimes like I just got to quit fighting with it and scratch it and like, well, that was that one, and just let it be what it's going to be instead of trying to force it in another direction. I don't know if you guys were writing out there, but I think that's, you got to listen to the tune, and the tune tells you where it wants to go pretty much all the time. I'm not going to say more often than not. Like, if it's really in there, I think the tune will tell you where it wants to go. And that's fun. It's fun being a part of that process. I don't know a better way to describe that. If you guys are writing out there and you identify with that, you know what I mean, and I would love another way to be able to describe that. Shoot me an email. Let me know how to talk like I'm educated, because right now I'm not doing a great job. On that note, let's talk to Nadav Peled. We're going.
All right.
Nadav Peled. I've known this guy about a year.
Mm-hmm.
Just learned how to Just learned how to say your last name.
Yes.
Yeah,
right.
like really right before I hit record.
Right.
I'm coming up with word association bits.
If anybody is interested, it's like the soccer player Pele, just with a D. So Peled.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, he lost me on all that. Like I checked out at soccer.
Oh yeah.
What did
Football,
I say?
But
what was
not
my
American.
thing?
I think you said Palid or something like that. Peled.
No, that's what I called you first. Peled. Yeah.
Right. It happens. It's okay. It's an
all
exotic name.
Jeez. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. I'm
Good.
happy to spend
You're happy?
the afternoon with you.
yeah, like the long trip around, right?
All right.
Right, we were joking about this. I tried to make it super efficient by coming over with the rig to
But you
record
forgot
this,
the
and then
power
forgot
cord.
the charger. So we had to go all the way back to my place, long
Yeah.
enough for me to run inside, and then drive all the way back.
But we got all the questions going.
Yeah, right. Juices are flowing.
Right,
Juices are
right.
flowing.
Yeah.
Let's get into it. You're from Israel.
From Israel, yeah. I was born there and grew up there. And then when I was 19, I moved to New York to go to the new school.
What age? When did you start playing?
I started playing when I was 11.
Okay.
Started playing. We had this little band when I was in 4th grade with a couple of friends of mine, and just one guy played a little bit of, like a Casio keyboard.
Yeah.
And we made up songs, and we
Sure.
would cover some other stuff, but we made up some funny songs, with like funny lyrics and shit like that. And then then we were like, okay, I guess we should probably play some other instruments. We can't have just that guy and us.
Oh, it was just Casio guy?
Yeah, just Casio guy and us.
You still talk to Casio guy?
Dude, he's my best friend.
Really?
He's like my brother.
Yeah. Is he like a Casio rep? Like, did
He's
he
not
really ride that out?
He became a great songwriter, and now he kind of turned to something else, and he has a kid. And he's family to me.
Right. Okay,
it's
that's
funny.
great.
So I wanted to play the drums.
Okay.
But my parents did not have money for either a drum set or lessons.
Uh-huh.
So we had a guitar lying around. My dad plays a few chords.
Okay.
So we were like, if you want to learn an instrument,
it's right there.
Here's an instrument.
Here's a free one.
Yeah.
That's what they're telling you. If you want to play,
pick
the free one.
Why not choose the one that's
the one
here?
we already have, because we're
exactly.
not putting any money behind this.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was my mom's old guitar. My mom, I guess, played a few, people in the 60s, everybody played a few chords, right?
Yeah, right.
So it was like a classical guitar with the action way high.
Right.
It was rough. Like, but the minute I picked it up and learned to play a chord, I think the first chord, A minor, and then E.
Sure.
To kind of move the same shape around. But we started with chords, which was very hard. But that's how, I guess, my dad, he's just played a few chords. He doesn't really have a method.
He tell you what he knew, right?
Yeah.
Now, what kind of music was going on in the house? Like, what were you guys listening to?
Man, road trips, with the family. We listened to a lot of Queen.
Really?
Queen is, still my favorite band.
Man, I've had Don't Stop Me Now in my head for, 4 days.
Man.
I love that tune.
And you can analyze that for about 4 days and still
I have been, I think, since I saw the movie.
Right.
And I've just,
the movie was great.
The movie was fantastic. I never really got into them growing up. Just kind of right out of the gate.
Right.
I just kind of, got into, collecting jazz records probably more than I did even knowing what I was listening to.
Yeah.
And all pop music was just dumb and foolish, so I wasn't into it. Now, but it's the opposite.
Yeah, well, I can remember listening to them when I was 4 years old, so it was really grew up on them, and I fell in love with it. And then Deep Purple, Bach, and the soundtrack from Jesus Christ Superstar.
All right.
And then we had I think it was one side was Queen Greatest Hits and the other side was some Phil Collins. We had that. But those were the major rotations. Queen, Deep Purple, Bach, and Jesus Christ Superstar.
All right, so now when you find that you're 11, you got the guitar, you just want to be Brian May? Is that you
Dude,
had to be Brian May?
And I got to meet him also.
Really?
I got to meet him a year or two ago. It was...
Where'd you meet him?
Such a nice guy. They played at the Hollywood Bowl.
Okay.
And Hagar played with them.
Really?
On the show because they came over. They did a bit and they didn't bring their bass player, so she got to play with them. And that was before I moved out here. But I would visit. I would visit frequently. And this time I couldn't do it or something, and I was so bummed, and she knew about it, so she talked to them, and the keyboard player was like, we're going to play here in the summer. It was, I forget what it was, and we'll get you in, and you could meet, Brian, and I was so excited.
Yeah, you have to be there. Now, for everybody listening, you want to explain Hagar?
Well, Hagar, my fiance, my life partner, whatever you want to call it, and she is the bass player right now for the Late Late Show with James Corden. And she played with amazing musicians throughout her life. She's an amazing, incredible musician in person, a great inspiration, source of light in my life.
Perfect.
And she used to play with Sharon Jones a lot. That was one of the more major things that she did for 4 years. And a bunch of other people. And she was one of the major people in New York.
Yeah. So we'll, I'm sure, get to that by the time we place you in New York. Right. So you're 11, you're in Israel. Right. You want to be Brian May.
Yes.
All right.
And Brian May, Jimi Hendrix, The Animals. Of course, my first song that I learned was House of the Rising Sun.
Yeah.
Took me 2 weeks to get that F down with, the partial F with just the bar on 2 fingers, which actually I think it might be even harder. Now, seeing it fucking 20 years later, It might be a little harder. Let me know if I'm using too much profanity.
That's fine.
Know,
That's fine.
But
I mean, I could bleep you out.
Right.
I could always do that.
Oh, that'd be cool.
That would be funny.
Yeah.
Or just like cut it all the way. Hey,
Just
Nadav.
Hey,
All right, that was Nadav.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Hey.
just right to the end.
Exactly. So 2 weeks, I remember that, like every day coming from school, just working for hours trying to get that F chord. And then when I got the F chord, so trying to get it from that D chord,
Yeah.
you know. And then I played that. My class had this like little talent show kind of thing.
Casio guy involved?
Casio guy, I think he sat out.
Really? Did you double booked? Was Casio guy double booked? Yeah.
He was just, yeah.
He had to go play a bake sale somewhere down the
He
street?
went to NAM or something. Yeah, at like fourth grade in Israel. He was, yeah. No. But, so, and I won. I sang that song.
In English?
In English.
Okay.
And I won. And just physically being able to change those chords, I remember it filled me up with such a great feeling. And then one of the other guys in my class also played guitar, and he had a teacher, and it was affordable. And my parents saw that, like, you know, I'm digging it and I'm getting into it, and there's, you know, a limit to what my dad could show me. So they got me that teacher. He was this Russian guy, Russian-Israeli, and that's great because, you know, Russian people, they have a method a lot of times, or they work a lot on the basics and stuff. So technique-wise, I played classical guitar for the first 3 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So classical pieces and, you know, some more like Spanish-sounding stuff. You know,
so then when did you get the nylon string guitar? Because you had your mom's with the high action.
So that was a nylon string.
Oh, that was a nylon.
Yeah, but then when I got into it a little more, than my grandparents bought me a nicer nylon one.
Okay.
It's this brand called Admira. That was pretty good, man. It was actually a pretty solid guitar for what it was, and it sounded pretty good, and I loved that guitar. And yeah, so I played for 3 years. I played mainly classical stuff, and I was working on it. Then I kind of started getting into rock and roll, and he would show me like the pentatonic. Like, I think the only thing that I wish he would have worked more with me on would be like actual reading music.
Okay.
Because I think I would pick up things very quickly when he showed them to me.
Okay, but you doing classical and all the classical rep, like you weren't reading that? You were learning it was visually?
All by ear and visually.
Okay.
And because it was easy for me. I can remember pretty quickly, and I remember a lot of things, and then it was easier for me to see it. And I think he, you know, you saw that I was doing well, and, you know, it's always good to have a pupil because we would do some concerts and stuff, you know, for the students that he had. Yeah. And, you know, sometimes there would be like, you know, on Friday nights Friday afternoons we would get together with the students and get some pieces involved. So, you know, we always want to get the students who are a little more advanced, you know, to have them. So he did. I think he just didn't bother kind of slowing me down with the reading. Okay. Just because he felt it. But I wish he did. But never mind. It was good times. And I got into some electric guitar. I think when I had my bar mitzvah, then like most young dudes at the time, you know, there's a big party and you get some money and stuff. Most people do like a little Euro trip or go to the U.S. or something like that, go to Disney World or something.
Did you buy a Strat?
I knew that I was going to get a guitar, an electric guitar, and like I remember I was telling my parents I want to get an electric guitar and that thing's going to fly me around the world.
Oh, look at this guy. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I didn't get a Strat, unfortunately. I got this interesting Polish-made guitar.
You still have it?
It's somewhere with my friends in Israel. I don't own it. But it's within the, I kind of know where it is, I think.
All right.
And it's like a really shreddy guitar, you know, with active pickups and a Floyd Rose and like super fast kind of rosewood neck, 2 octaves, 24 frets. And I loved it. And we would play, he taught me like some Vinnie Moore stuff.
Okay.
and kind of shreddy.
Sure.
I got into like Malmsteen and Satriani, Steve Vai, and all of that stuff.
All the neoclassical shred.
Right.
Yeah.
And I dug that. And then also I would afterwards I would like check out. I got into Led Zeppelin, so I would play with the recordings a lot. But it's funny because I was so into it, and usually my memory is very good with these things, but like I was so out of it as well, because when I got into jazz, I got like super into that, and for a long time I would only deal with that. Like I wouldn't be interested in other music.
Right.
And so I was out of that whole scene, the Led Zeppelin and all that for a long time. And so it feels like, it almost feels like a different lifetime.
Right. So then, okay, you're doing this. You won the talent show.
Right. Okay. So that was 4th grade. And then I just kept playing. Were
you doing like local gigs? You and Casio guy?
No, not yet. I think I started gigging when I was about 15, I think, started gigging.
Okay.
When I was 15, I was in high school, and I started out high school at this one school, and then I moved to this other school, which was in a kibbutz, nearby. A kibbutz, for those of you who don't know, it was like a socialist experiment in Israel.
I don't know. So like you can just, like, for Ryan that doesn't know.
For Ryan.
Yeah.
I didn't want to say you.
No,
I know everybody else know, but you.
Yeah, everybody else is like, Ryan's an idiot. He doesn't know.
No.
I didn't even know what the word was.
So kibbutz.
Yeah,
kibbutz, which I think in Hebrew it kind of means to assemble, to group things together. And that's kind of a socialist way of life. It's usually agriculture oriented. There's there's farming. There's cows involved and stuff like that. There's cows involved. There's livestock involved. Obviously, no pigs. You can't raise pigs. It's illegal to raise pigs in Israel.
Farm gamut? So you got the cow.
There's
sheep?
cows.
What's the sheep situation?
Not so many sheep. We had a cotton field.
Okay.
No sheep, or maybe there were sheep. I don't know. And there's a chicken coop, and it was kind of supposed to be a self-sustaining kind of system, where people don't work necessarily for a salary. They just
trading goods?
there's a dining hall that everybody eats at breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Okay.
All of the could be. It's not like millions of people. It's hundreds of people, I guess. Yeah. And they would get together on Fridays and have like little culture evenings. So my high school was in one of those, and they had that kind of outlook on life. And we did have, like, every Friday we had like a theme, like, I don't know, 60s or
high school, you said, right?
Yeah, in high school.
So like, what's the economics class like in this high school? Like, how do they talk about, like?
I doubt that we had an economics class, and that there is an economics class in high school in Israel.
I don't even know. I didn't even know if I went through one in.
Yeah, I think it's more like a college thing, right?
Yeah, maybe. I know I didn't do one in college.
Yeah. So yeah, we would get like all kinds of themes for evenings, like Woodstock or prog rock and stuff like that, and we would really go for it. We would practice a lot. We had like a music room, and we would just live there pretty much. And then there was a friend in the same year that I was, and he was kind of like a mad genius, really. He's like, at 13 he already wrote like a trilogy, enough material for a trilogy of albums, like in a prog rock. He was into like Yes, King Crimson and all that, and we recorded a record. We put it out. It was called I Don't Know What You See When You Look at Me, and each song was like in a different, pretty
such a fascinating concept, like, for a record.
Yeah.
But how do you wow. So was he trying to tell the story of that question through music?
I guess he was, I couldn't really follow his logic, back then. But I guess that was the thing. Or, sometimes it's just, I later read, for example, that the guy from Yes, who wrote the lyrics, people tried to figure out the meaning. It was like, just sounded good to me.
All right.
So maybe it just sounded good to him. But each song, it was like, the first song was I, the second one was Don't, No.
Oh, wow, okay.
So it was like a concept album, and each one of them had like a weird weird time signature and stuff like that. And
would they stay in the
it would
in the odd time?
It would be like 7 or 11/8, 10. There was 1 and 4/4. Like each song had a different time signature. And
How was? Do you remember how was 7 grouped? Like I've done 7 with some Israeli guys, and they group it different. They group it 3/4.
I'm pretty sure it was very basic. It was because like even the 11/8 thing, it would be just all of the phrases would be all the 11/8. So you would fill up all of the.
You're just playing 11/8 notes.
Exactly.
And then
some of them were more intricate than others, but it's hard for me to remember now.
Yeah, but the kid's 13 when he's doing this.
Yeah, he's fucking 13.
That's fine.
And we recorded it. We worked on it so long. Like every day after school, we would go to his place and work on it. We had like a little studio, and he lived in a different kibbutz nearby. And then we recorded it there. And then I think we recorded it when I was 14, and when we were 15, we played in pretty much the biggest like rock venue in Israel, which is called Barbie.
Okay.
In Tel Aviv, and that was very exciting. I mean, there weren't a lot of people or anything, but it was very exciting.
Yeah,
still a gig,
and it's a gig.
Yeah. And then like I got into like some fusion and jazz stuff, and I would, I could play fast. I couldn't play well, but I could play kind of fast.
Yeah.
So it meant something back then, in that situation. And pretty soon, I was gigging with all kinds of little trios and groups and stuff like that.
Doing original music, or were you doing covers of? And if so, was that American music? Was that Israeli music?
It was. Most of the covers were always. We were very inspired by American music.
Okay.
Whether it be jazz, fusion, rock and roll, and then I would try to write music. I was always trying to write like epic stuff. You know. Epic hard stuff.
Well, yeah, you show tunes in Queen. Like that's what was going on at the house. So like
pretty
that's
much.
in you. Yeah, you're trying to duplicate
Jesus
that.
Christ Superstar.
Right. I don't know if I've ever heard the whole.
It's actually a great soundtrack. There's great music there. So yeah, I started gigging like in bars and stuff around the area, doing small stuff. And I got into jazz little by little through Casio guy.
Still talk to Casio guy?
I told you, he's my best friend.
Oh, that's right. Can we get him involved? Can we
let's call him
let's call Casio guy.
It's 3 a.m. here. I just put the baby to sleep.
Sucks for you because we're doing this.
Well, yeah, maybe you can answer. And then I got into this program, like a youth summer camp, jazz summer camp that was pretty good. And that opened my eyes because it was people, a lot of Israeli cats that lived in New York. There's a lot of people in Israel that are pretty good musicians. And there was a lot of them that also kind of, they went to Berkeley.
Sure.
And they had that attitude with them and they brought it over. And that's one thing.
They brought it back.
Yeah.
So they went to music school on the East Coast.
Yeah, they went to Berkeley and came back and started this music school there. But that's one thing. But then there was a whole other wave that I was not aware of of people who lived in New York and have been there for 10 years, and played, in like the late 70s, early 80s, early 90s when Smalls just started.
Yeah.
People who actually were there, like Omer Avital, who kind of was there for the beginning of Smalls. And they brought in this completely different attitude, like, real hard kind of swinging jazz. You learn the tunes, you learn them by heart, you transcribe them to each key.
Right.
You need to, if you learn a Birdhead, first off, you don't read it off the Omnibook. You listen to the recording, you learn how to transcribe it, and then you change it up in all keys. And
right, you really do all your homework.
Yeah, and, learn how to play up tempos and ballads and whatever, and recognize the players. And it's not like, if it's guitar, it was like, way less Pat Metheny and John Abercrombie, more like gotta check out Wes, Grant Green, Kenny Burrell.
Sure.
So my eyes kind of were open to that thing. And hold on one second. And that really changed me.
So this is after you got to New York.
No, this was in my teens.
Okay.
Still in Israel. When I was playing fusion and stuff like that, and I thought I could play.
Sure.
But then I saw kids actually playing changes. You know,
Right.
it's like playing tunes, and it feels like they know how to play jazz. Those were the kids from Tel Aviv, which was kind of the urban,
the big city.
thing. And for me, I was like from a little town. And so that kind of set a course for me, and I got way into like more straight ahead jazz, I would say, and study with a bunch of people there. And then, at 19, moved to New York.
You're going to the new school.
That. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So what year did you graduate the new school?
I actually did not graduate at the new school. I had to move back to Israel for a couple of years. And so I was at the new school 2007 to 2009.
Cool.
And then I went back to Israel, and I did one more year at the Rubin Academy for Music. That's in Jerusalem. So I got my degree from there.
Who did you study with at the new school?
At the new school, I studied with a bunch of great people. Well, privately, I was the most interested, of going there to study with Pete Bernstein, who's a great hero of mine. And I did get to study with him, which was great.
Great.
It was really fantastic. And I got to study with a bunch of other great guitar players. Jack Wilkins, studied with him a lot. He's old school,
I remember
OG.
he came to, man, what year is this? This must have been like 03. I was going to junior college in Mesa, and he came there for like, I think it was called Jazz Week, where like ASU and all the community colleges would like hire somebody to come out for the week and like kind of do the rotation.
He's like artist in residence.
Yeah. And Jack came out, and I got to play with Jack. He's
such a great guy.
Exactly.
That's first thing. Yeah. And Pete as well. That was one of the most inspiring things to see. People with a really vast career that did a lot of things, but they're still so nice. They're good people.
Yeah.
And Jack is amazing, and he has like an encyclopedic knowledge of tunes, and like Johnny Smith arrangements and Tal Farlow. He really got into those guitar players, so that was cool. And I got to study with Lage Lund, who's amazing. Vic Juris, who's like a guitar master. Jonathan Kreisberg.
Okay.
And then at the new school itself, there were a few very influential teachers. We had an ensemble with Charlie Persip, drummer. That was great. And also, one of the most important lessons I've had there was a class called Rhythm Section Workshop. That's what Hal Galper, the piano player. That was also very eye-opening. It was an amazing class, probably the best class I've ever had in my life. He had a very structured thing about listening and comping in a group. Like points of focus, if you are the main comp guy, you should really be getting your like rhythmic influences from this and the harmonic influences for this. And, obviously it all opens up and you kind of do everything, but it was so clear. And when I started doing that, I started getting a lot of compliments on my comping. Like people would come and, and would say that they felt so great with me comping. And that's the thing, man. That's also a thing that gets you a lot of work. I mean, it's not that, I'm working like my ass off or anything, but people notice that. Sure. People notice that, and
I mean, if I've played definitely with guitar players, it's like, like no, I'd rather not. Like they solo great, at doing that.
Might as well not comp for my
solo. Just please don't. Right. Yeah, just lay out because it has no. We were talking about this earlier today. Like it's rhythmic information that has zero context.
Oh yeah.
And like compers do that. They do it a lot behind bass solos too. Like I'm really obviously hypersensitive to that. Just like what the hell did you just do that for?
Right.
Like listen to Chick. Chick is comping behind bass solos. Amazing.
Yeah. So and comping, it puts you together with the band and it makes everything more fun. So if you're really putting in you're investing some thought and care for it, it makes everything better, like the whole experience better. And people react to it. People like to feel supported.
Of course, of course. Yeah, in all things, right. That's just the nature of
human nature.
Right, exactly. And, that music and it being so social, it's not like you're just going into the studio and cutting a track and You know, they're gonna sync it up later.
If you can't comp well, then it means that you're not listening well, and that the group is suffering.
Sure,
it's a group effort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So where are we at in the story? You graduated. You're back in New York now.
Back in New York,
Okay.
2012. I'm back in New York.
Back in New York, baby. We're doing
Back in New York.
Okay.
Yes, doing it to death.
So, is this when you start the band?
I started the band then. So in my time in Israel, I played with this reggae band, and we had a singer. His name is Gili Yalo. He's a great friend. Still work with him, and he is Ethiopian, born in Ethiopia, raised in Israel, and he introduced me to Ethiopian music.
Mm-hmm.
I got super fascinated with it, and I studied it with some musicians that lived in Israel. And when I moved back to New York, I was more open to more styles. Like when I was in New York for the first time, it was like mostly like just kind of bird and jazz and just swinging.
Kind of on that bebop Nazi thing.
Kind of, yeah. I was really into that. And then back in New York, I was like open to like reggae and Afrobeat and music, different music from Africa, funk stuff, heavy funk stuff. And I played a little bit with this Afrobeat band, and I was like, okay, there's a following here, and there's like a thing here for Afrocentric music, and nobody really knows about Ethiopian music or Eastern African, Ethiopia, Sudan, or Eritrea.
Now, how are you continuing? If you felt that there was a deficiency in it there, how are you continuing your kind of education in it? Were you just checking out recordings or books? Were you still talking to musicians about it? Maybe some dudes would know some stuff.
I was looking for musicians. There's not a big Ethiopian community in New York.
Okay.
There are big communities. LA is one. Chicago is one. DC. But New York is not. I did meet a bass player over there. We tried to do some stuff, but it didn't work out. And I was like eager to start my own thing, so I just did it, and that kind of fell through. But yes, I kept checking out recordings, and also Gili, we would send each other stuff. Like we would dig this record, and he was like, "Oh, you got to check this out. You got to check this out."
Right.
And
I don't know if we've covered it yet. The name of your group is. Why don't you introduce everybody?
The name of the group is Ambessa.
There it is.
Orchestra.
Okay.
Now, Ambessa means lion in Amharic, which is the national language of Ethiopia. There's a lot of languages going around in Ethiopia, but the main one is Amharic, and Ambessa means lion. When we started out, it was just called Lions, but then we had this little dispute with another band, and we had to change it.
What were they? What was their band name?
It was the Lions.
Okay. Is this like everybody's going for it? Everybody wants to be.
Everybody wants to be the king of the jungle.
Yeah.
But I just at the time I was very distraught by it, but I hadn't realized that they had given us a gift, because that name, the previous name, would not have worked. Like this name sets us apart. It's way easier to look for it, and has like more of a meaning and more of a connection to that music because it's in Amharic. So it was a blessing in disguise. Disguise.
Sounds like these guys.
A blessing in these guys.
These guys, yeah.
Ambessa Orchestra. That's my project. I love that band, and it's with dear friends who are amazing musicians as well.
Did you meet those dudes at the New School?
I met most of them at the New School. A lot of them are Israeli, but a big chunk of them I only met in New York, which is interesting because there's a big Israeli community in New York. And we started out just kind of playing covers of Ethiopian tunes, and it was pretty basic arrangement. It was like, okay, so the singer does the melody, but we don't have a singer, so the horns will play the melody.
Yeah.
Somebody will take a solo, back to the melody. It's kind of like a more jazz approach.
Sure.
But then as things went on, I wrote some more original materials, and then I would kind of try to explore different regions of the music, and then I would like to represent that with something of our own,
Mm-hmm. So you're the main writer? Do you guys write collectively?
I am the writer.
Okay, you're the only writer.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's interesting because...
So this is very much your band. Like
it is my band, but it is a band.
Okay.
Like there is a sense of community, and they do have some suggestions. I can be really hard at rehearsals and stuff like that, like really knocking down ideas and stuff like that. And I know that I do.
All right.
But
that's hilarious. Like I've never,
I could be like really
This is why I'm not in
strict.
your band.
Yeah.
I mean, I was never asked.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Well, I didn't know you at the time. But yeah, I mainly write and arrange, and I book and manage and whatever.
That's a lot.
So it's a lot. But the people there, you know, it is kind of a family, you know. But if it is a family, I would be the head of the family. I guess,
Okay.
you know?
The lion.
The lion, yeah. Yeah, and we've been very active in New York for the last. So the band has been around for about 4 years, a little over 4 years. Been very active in New York. We before I moved out here, we had a monthly gig at this place called Barbès, which is a really, really cool spot for music from all types of places from the world and like experimental music. And there's a great following there. It's a good place to have a residency at. And we would play Rockwood Music Hall a lot and Brooklyn Bowl every now and then. And then actually when I decided to move out here, so I decided that, you know, every time I would make an excursion to come back and play with Ambessa, because I wanted to keep it going. So I was like, okay, I'll be back around every month and a half or 2 months I'll be back. So I was like, okay, it doesn't make sense to come back for one Barbès gig or something like that. So started booking things out of town, so we kind of expanded our reach. We're doing a lot of stuff in D.C., Baltimore, Connecticut, New England, you know, that whole area. So whenever I come in, try to make it a little mini tour.
Sure.
And we were in France last summer, played a great festival in Lyon. It was amazing.
I remember that.
Yeah, and I'm trying to create some more opportunities like that for us. We put out 2 records. One is like an EP, and last one, which is a fuller length LP, came out March last year, and we have some more recordings. We're gonna do 2 new tracks.
Which one did you send me?
I sent you the latest one that we
Okay.
have, because I don't like the first one anymore. And
But so now I was listening to it, and it's now I don't know about Ethiopian music. Like a knee-jerk reaction, it had like this 60s boogaloo kind of surf vibe. Like your guitar sound was very,
right,
you know, coming from that place. Where's the Ethiopian thing in there?
What
and I understand. I mean, that's such a strong characteristic in that music. Like it's a, you know, maybe I don't know what you guys do live, but does it lead itself to a jam band thing?
There's more of a stretching and more of playing grooves. But the thing is, so in Ethiopia, late 60s, early 70s, they were very influenced from the West. Like they would have like, you know, James Brown records and stuff like that. So they would
they would so you're incorporate on that specific time period from Ethiopia, and not necessarily this like kind of folkloric thing.
So that it started out with us so also with them, they would put like their scales on those beats, because the interesting thing about Ethiopian music, one of the interesting things, is that rhythmically it could be a little less involved than other countries in Africa. Okay. You know, like West Africa or North Africa, very rhythmically intricate and involved. But Ethiopia, for the most part, a little bit more straightforward. However, they have their own set of scales that is very different than the other African countries. Okay. So they would put like a groove that's pretty straightforward, but then they would put their scales on it, which has more of an interesting sound. And the thing you were saying about the folkloric music, so we were talking about that tune, Giza Suite. Yeah. Which is the only non-original on the record. Okay. But it's very heavily arranged, because I was trying to explore a little bit more of a traditional vibe, and I found this record that was more Tigrian music. It's a tribe there that has its own thing. And the original recording that I got it from was just a singer with this instrument called krar. It's a native instrument. It's a 5-string harp. It's pretty percussive, which I also tried to emulate a little bit, and a percussionist, you know, playing a very simple beat. And I transcribed I transcribed the krar part, the rhythm part, and I put it with the horns. If you remember, they have like a very percussive thing happening, and then we clapped it, and I played the melody. So, and then we put the whole rhythm section in, and then the third part is an original thing. That's why we called it Giza Suite, because it has like 3 parts. Okay. So um, so that's, for example, with kind of exploring a little bit more of the traditional vibe and trying to make it something of our own. So it's either me, I would try to play a little bit more like the krar, it's a little bit more percussive, and
So what is that word? Slow it down. What's the part? La what? Like you just said, you're gonna try to play the. What is that?
oh, it's
What's the word you said?
krar.
How do you spell that?
Krar.
Okay.
Maybe put like a little apostrophe after the K. Krar.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Right.
And
I can't do that.
Yeah.
Or do the thing with the R's. All right, you're fired up. What you gonna play it?
Like a krar probably. So something a little bit like that. It's got like, some fourths and fifths there, kind of close. So it's always tuned to a pentatonic scale. So doing it on the guitar, you kind of use your bar a lot. And
do you ever do alternate tunings?
I don't. Don't do alternate tunings. Don't use a capo.
Okay.
But it's just I might do it sometime in the future, but haven't
Still
done it.
waiting for a capo endorsement?
Yeah. It's just I always feel like I've always felt that as well. I mean, that I want the guitar to be as normal as possible.
Sure.
And I want to have just a guitar, and then whatever I need to do on that.
You're talking like effects-wise and trinkets and all that. You want
pure
instrument.
I want it to be as, I have a few pedals that I use, and I like it. I haven't used pedals for a very long time, and I started using them again like in recent years, and it's cool, and a different effect can inspire you to play a little differently. But generally,
you're not coming from like, there's this a bass too. Like guys are like, they're so deep in the effects thing. Like that's their sound. Like how they layer the effects is their sound versus a guy who might color what he's doing with his hands with a little effect.
Yeah, so I would definitely be in the second category. Sure. And, I mostly, a lot of the times I would play straight to the amp.
Right.
Or, very little effects. Because I just like to do a lot myself, a lot of create the sound myself. Or if it's like obviously, if you have a capo, you can have like open strings ring more. But I like kind of the jankiness of it. Like especially when I'm doing like trying to mimic the krar.
Right.
There's a certain kind of jankiness, to
How
it.
How is that instrument constructed?
It's got 5 strings.
Okay.
Kind of fanned out.
Just to an open A pentatonic.
Yeah, for example, and it's got a little sound hole to it, or not even a sound hole. It's like a little round body to it.
Okay.
And the way you would play it, I think you would use your right hand to hold the strings, but so all of the strings play this. It's not like you move your hand on it and play a different pitch. Right. It's only if it's a pentatonic, like A, C, D, E.
Okay, sure.
And G, right? So the hand that would be the fretting hand, like your left hand.
If you play
what you would do.
Not everybody plays right-handed.
Oh, yeah, right.
Come on. Be cool.
Be
cool.
Yeah. Gotta include everybody.
Yeah, that's right. Gotta be, fretboard fluid.
Exactly. Yeah. So you would actually use that hand to stop the sound of the string. Okay. So basically the opposite of what you do on a regular guitar or stringed instrument where you fret with your hand. When you put your hand on the string is to block it. Yeah. And then you use the other hand to strum. And sometimes they even use the same hand like as though it were the fretting hand, but they would strum the strings from that hand.
Okay.
And then when they
like that kind of motion?
And then when they need to like strum more percussive, they have like a little pick. It's almost like an oud pick, and they would strum that.
Fascinating.
But it's very interesting
I
instrument.
Look this up.
Very cool sound.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like to kind of mimic that a lot. And so
now what's the relation there between that and like a sitar? Are they?
I have no idea.
Huh.
I don't know how a sitar
So there's no
works.
frets on.
There's no frets,
Okay.
but it's only. But also, there's no changing pitches.
Right.
They are
You're
constant.
Yeah,
I mean, you would tune it differently, I would presume. But
got a little snark clip on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the modern people, the modern musicians, that's what they do, actually. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
And and I'm guessing that they would do it also back in the day, like if they wanted to change keys.
Right.
It's not uncommon to have an instrument where you have to tune differently to change keys, right?
So this is a folkloric instrument.
That's the folkloric.
And how deep is this connected to their religion, or a sense of nationalism and overall culture, like all those things?
Well, it's just a very common instrument. It's been called. So in Ethiopia, there's a thing. First off, it's one of the earliest forms of Christianity that's very close to Judaism.
Okay.
And they have a claim for a Solomonic ancestry. So the King Solomon and Queen of Sheba, she was apparently from Ethiopia, and they had a few sons together. And when King Solomon was dethroned, they ran back to Ethiopia. Apparently, also it is said that they took the Ark of the Covenant with them, and it is lying in a old synagogue or old church, maybe even in Gondar in Ethiopia. And it's been said, they say that the krar is basically the harp of David, that he played the harp and David played and it pleased the Lord.
Right.
So that's very rooted in their culture. And then they have another instrument that's called a masenko, which is a little bit like the Indian kamancha, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's Indian. It's a one-string instrument.
Sounds like a juice you get at a vegan restaurant.
Yes, kamancha. Let me get some kamancha. Some kombucha. It's one string, and they do change the pitch with it. Interesting sound.
Is it, are there frets to stop, like,
no frets.
The pitch?
One, it's like almost like a bow with a string strung pretty tensely. And they would change their position of the finger on the string to create different pitches.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know how we got on that topic. Where were we at before that? I don't know.
Ambessa Orchestra.
Yeah, that's what you're doing.
Record.
So,
check the record out on
Check the record
Spotify.
out. You guys did the United. Let's talk about this.
We did something for United. So United had a cool project, which a lot of musicians are a little bit afraid of United Airlines. I know, because they had the whole thing with United Breaks guitars. I think they turned a new leaf, because I've had, even before we did that project, I've had pretty okay flights with them.
so even before, I've had pretty okay.
Yeah, I think
they weren't great.
It was good. It was good. It was just
I've had pretty mediocre.
no. No problem with the
60% mediocre. It was amazing.
No problems with the instruments. And so they have had Rhapsody in Blue, Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue, as their theme song since, I think, the 80s. And I believe that this year it is becoming public domain. I think it turns 100. And
in 2019 or 2018?
2019, I think. They were preemptively doing something.
Yeah, sure.
And they chose 4 artists from all over the world. It's mainly like, people who are like kind of a singer-songwriter or producer, like a lot of computer stuff. Yeah. And us, we were the only band there. And they wanted all of these artists to create their own spin on Rhapsody in Blue. So, and we were the first ones to do it out of the 4 as well.
Did you have a couple kind of arrangements in mind, or did you just have the one? Like, you played it for me right after, I think it was You Got Back.
I think
you went out to New York and you recorded it.
Right, before it was published.
Right.
Published. I played it for you. And it took a minute. Well, the first theme that comes in your head, I don't know, to me was the So also, first I had to re-listen to it, a few times just to get the vibe and continuity, and just to get the melody right, to see if what I remember is right. And then I started kind of messing around with some ideas, and and then I realized that because it's kind of an orchestral piece and it goes through some kinds of movements, and we're kind of a large group, then we could do a few movements as well. So and it only needed to be 2 minutes, so there's only so much you can put into it. So I decided to take the first part of it was a very common beat from Ethiopia. It's like a tribal beat. It's like a 1, 2, kukum, 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 you know. And we did some clapping over that, and we did like the horns are playing. There's like a little intro right before the first melody comes in on the original version. Yeah. That the horns are kind of doing like do-de, 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 something like that. I tried to use that motive and worked it out with the horns, and then we're playing the main thing, which was for me is and we put an eskesta groove. It's called eskesta from Ethiopia, which is kind of a dancey kind of thing over that. And then for the last part, which is the another very famous theme from that, I really wanted, because they were like, we don't want to cover, we want, we chose you because you have a thing.
Right, they specifically want...
Yeah, which was very cool.
You to reimagine it
that
a
was
little bit.
Very cool, of them to do it,
It's cool that they give you a...
free hand, yeah. So...
What if they're using musicians to try to save face?
I don't know. I think, all of my interaction with them was great, so I could...
It was greatly...
it was really good. I can't say anything bad.
No. I don't want to put you in the roast.
No, I can't just because I don't have anything bad to say. If I did have anything bad to say, I would say it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
they've never messed up any of my stuff.
Yeah. So I wanted to see how that melody will work with a groove with a scale called Anchihoya. It's a very sharp scale. I'll play it for you. I don't think this is the exact key we did it in the recording, but this is the scale.
Break that down. Let's go through that. What do you got there?
So, first off, I learned it a little bit wrong, I think, and I did. Okay, I'll just show you it the way I learned it, and then the way I realized that it's meant to be played. But
let's start with accurate, and then we'll go back.
So
let's
accurately,
start with what it is.
Actually, I think it'll be easier for musicians to understand if we started the wrong way, the way I started it. Yeah, there's no wrong and right, but the wrong way. Yeah. So if this was in G, so let's say G, B flat, D flat. So we got a diminished triad happening. D natural and F sharp. So I would always look at it as like a diminished pentatonic.
Sure. I mean, all that can come from, however you want to think about it, half whole, whole half, octatonic, whatever verbiage. All those notes are in there.
Great. Yeah. But mainly it's actually used from the flat fifth of that. So if we did it on G, it would start on D flat, D natural, F sharp, G, and B flat.
Okay, so like it's typically done with the half notes, or excuse me, the half steps group.
As the begin.
Now, how much of this information influences your jazz playing?
It's funny.
Do you use those scales to navigate changes?
I do actually. It's mostly, if there's a vamp, though, it works better. It's funny because I was playing at ETA this Wednesday with Matt Mayhall and Carl McComas Reichel, and we played a tune by Randy Weston. It's called Little Niles. It goes.
Yeah.
So this part is like in the melody, and I felt that it was cool.
Right. It's all kind of right there.
It's close to that. So we actually kind of played with that as well. Nice. Over that. And
how's Matt doing? I haven't seen Matt in years.
Well, he's playing fucking awesome. He's amazing, and I think he's doing well.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah, I love playing with him.
He lives around here, doesn't he?
I actually don't know where he lives. I only, we were hanging out at his studio in North Hollywood, right by where you live.
Oh, really?
if you want to know where Ryan lives, just talk to me. If you want to send him dead horse heads or something like that.
Yeah.
Or
just
gifts.
a wounded alpaca.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Wounded alpaca has
like the whole
all
alpaca though.
Yes.
I'm gonna nurse him back.
Exactly.
Yeah, I do this on the side.
Yes. Put him, feed him with a bottle.
That's right.
I always wanted an alpaca.
Really?
Yes. But
I
anyway,
like there's some kind of farm joke. They weren't there with the cows and no alpacas.
No alpacas in the cows and sheep and chickens in the kibbutz.
No wonder you left.
Yeah, exactly. Right? How could I not leave?
You know where I'm gonna find an alpaca?
Yeah.
I'm going to the new school.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All alpacas there. But there is also, like, I have always liked the kind of Lydian kind of sound of things.
Mm-hmm.
And, like the Joe Henderson vibe
Sure.
Or just if it's a 2/5 even. If it's G minor, you can...
Yeah.
And then C... What's that? And one of the Ethiopian scales is kind of like that. It's called Ambessa, and you can play like something like that.
Now, how do these scales affect their just overall tonality? Like, I have no...
It usually
like, I don't
just
know anything
stays,
about it.
it stays
Chords are still
on...
stacked in thirds, and it's kind of European harmony in
Oh,
that sense?
Yeah, well, I mean... Yeah, once they kind of got chords happening there, it can be a modal kind of thing, like kind of grouping notes from the scale. But a lot of the times just a plain minor,
Okay.
There's not a lot of movement. They would go from 1 to the 4 or maybe flat 6.
I mean, I heard when I was listening to the band. Yeah,
well,
I was
yeah,
that was maybe some of the jam band quality. That and the kind of the beat.
Yeah,
yeah. Those things together made me think jam band because it was just kind of hanging out. It wasn't
right. There's a lot of like staying on one area and grooving, but that's also kind of what they do, and
fine,
they do it all over Africa. So that aspect, that scale kind of worked with my jazz playing as well. And I think it just opened me up. It's funny. I always think about it when I used to be like the bop Nazi kind of thing. I was very into it and I was trying to practice so hard. And it never really felt like it was easy to do or it was always hard and always felt like something was missing. And then when I opened up to other styles and everything kind of became a little nicer and a little more fluent.
Okay. You're kind of in your zone?
Yeah, I mean, even the straight ahead jazz playing kind of felt more clear to me.
Oh, okay.
When I I think it's just like closeness and openness. To be able to absorb as a person and into the music itself. Like, I was just about this one thing and I didn't have any room for anything else, and I didn't feel like I was doing that one thing very well, and then
especially when it comes to that dude, like when you're dealing with just bebop,
yes,
like come on, like that's what bebop does to you. Like no one ever plays that well enough,
right?
You know what I mean?
It's always like a self-deprecating kind of thing.
Yeah,
right?
or it's you're either I don't know.
Yeah,
there's guys that can. I've heard modern guys that are doing a great job.
Oh yeah, they do. They're probably they still think they suck, but
that's a thing. Like that's a gnarly study.
It's great. I still love it. And I would still transcribe Bird and Bud and everything. But just ever since I was like at a certain point, like a little bit before I got into like the Ethiopian music when I was playing with that reggae band in Israel, I was like, okay, you gotta be able to love what you love, musically. If you feel good about a fucking Britney Spears song, then you enjoy that song, and it's fine. Sure. And if you wanna even learn it and see what's up with it, you can do it, or any other kind of music, and it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be super simple. And
the new school's a progressive school. Like I read up on a lot of it because I was looking to go there around the years you were there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's a really open-minded school. Like, it seemed like a lot of these ideas would have landed well.
Yeah, but I wasn't ready for that openness. Yeah.
Okay.
When I came there, I was too close-minded, and I know about.
Well, what do you think that was? Were you trying to prove something to yourself? Were you trying to prove like I can hang with the New York guys?
I think so.
Sure.
You know, and I was always been kind of serious. You know, I was, you know, growing up, I was just a little too serious. You know, for my angle. So you take yourself a little too seriously as well. You know, also when you're younger, then everything kind of feels more, you know, profound. As you grow old, you see that some things are you thought were, you know, everything's cool. You know,
everything it'll all work out. It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
So you're setting out to prove something. And I was 19. You know, now I'm not 19. I'm not gonna be the 19-year-old guitar player. So I you know, fuck it. You know?
You gotta just do this now.
So and I feel like I have way more to say now. And even like practice wise, I would practice like 6-7 hours and stuff like that. But I didn't feel like I was going anywhere. And today I could, you know, practice an hour and a half like every day, and I would feel progress, you know.
Then I think as the more time we spend around all of this, you know, like our ears change.
Right.
So we're listening to how everything is connected to each other when we're, you know, on the record instead of just like what our instrument is doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being young and checking out dudes and just like checking out what they were doing on their instrument. And if it wasn't flashy, I didn't care. You know, because this guy does the flashy thing, and that gives me this like wow factor payoff.
Right,
so then,
right away.
That became the norm, right? Like I have to have this wow factor payoff to get it at all.
Yeah.
But like I was just too dumb to understand that like all the dudes, especially bass players, that weren't doing the wow factor are the guys I should have been checking out.
Yeah, I mean Ray Brown talks about it. You know, you gotta have a good sound, a steady beat, you know, make a bass line, you know, and that'll get you hired as well.
Right.
Yeah, totally. Music, you gotta be open. It's an art. There's a bunch of things, and we were talking about it just before we started. There's a bunch of things. I feel strongly about a lot of things. Like I would
no harmonica.
I would feel strongly about negatively about them. Like as much as I accept the things that I love, I also accept the things that I really don't like.
Sure.
For example, things we talked about. I don't want to burn any bridges with anybody, but like I would say, I mean, I kind of think this is not good, or this is pretty shitty, or it's bullshit. But there are way more things that I think that are beautiful.
I mean, I have really strong opinions myself about music. Like I probably won't share too many of them.
Yeah.
Because I'm running this thing.
Right. I mean, I share them privately.
Yeah.
It's another thing. Like, you know, a lot
but
of people.
But you have to, because those. Sorry to interrupt, but it's the same. It's that mind that'll help you critique your own thing. Yeah. For the direction you want to go in, you know. And so because if everything's okay, there's no need to ever be better.
Yes, if everything is okay, it creates like this mediocrity. You know?
Absolutely.
You know what you like and you know what you don't like. You know, in your own playing and in other people's playing, and that kind of creates you. I was just about to say that there's this thing, you know, people say about Israeli people that are so upfront and they, you know, tell what they think, which is great. But I think that a lot of times it's just unsolicited. You know, if you ask me what I thought about your show, I would tell you.
Sure.
But if you don't ask me, well, if it's good, I'll probably come up and tell you. But if I don't enjoy it or whatever, then I won't. You know, there's no need for me to come up to somebody and be like, "Oh man, I thought
just for no reason."
Yeah. So you gotta be.
I just don't.
It's good to speak your mind.
Like, the question to me
when
is, why
somebody
didn't you come to the show?
asks you, you know.
Right. Yeah. There's time and place for everything. Yeah.
Exactly.
You know. Usually, you know, negative feedback.
I mean, it's the way you put it. You gotta, if you put it in like some of a constructive criticism, you know, rarely do you think that. I mean, it happens, but you know, not. Like saying, okay, how was the show? It was shit. You know? It was like, you know, I didn't like it. I thought this was bad. I thought
are
this was...
Are you talking about as if you played the show or as if you're just listening to a show?
Listening to it.
Okay.
If I played it, I would... a lot of times I would be like, I was shit.
Yeah.
Because, you know...
My answer is like, it's always fine. It's fine.
We're always hard on ourselves.
Sure.
No, but yeah, I realize when it's good. I realize when it's bad. I realize when there's things I'd like to improve with my playing, or I would like to hear differently with other people. Yeah.
Do you teach?
I try to teach as much as I can. Right now, I don't have a lot of students, but I do teach. I used to teach a lot.
How? I used to teach a lot.
I do teach a lot. I used to teach a lot. I do 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 teach a
Now, as a teacher, you have that direct connection to like critique the student.
Right.
How do you deal with that? Is it the gloves off? Are you just going for it, or you just?
It's usually gloves off, but as time went by, like in Israel, in that time I spent after coming back from New York and before going back to New York, I would teach a lot. I would have about 34 students a week, I think.
Okay.
Taught at a few schools and stuff like that.
Nice.
That is very hard because there's a lot of them want to kind of become a machine, and you put out the same songs for some people, and because they all want to. Also, they it's not like when they come to you and they want to learn or like jazz or anything. It's like you teaching guitar to teenagers.
Right, it's
and stuff
general
like
information on the instrument. Yeah.
And also it was through music centers and schools, so I couldn't, like, if it were my students, a lot of the times I would just tell the parents, like, it's not working out.
Okay.
Like, if I see that, because I was like, you're wasting your money right now. Sure. I don't see anything that I'm giving him or her, the student.
Yeah.
So I would kind of fire students. It didn't happen like all that often, but it happened a few times.
Okay.
And with other students, when it was like the big amount of students, I would try to motivate them. I would always try to, like, at first I would get really frustrated, because I was only thinking about it from my own view, and thinking about it. The minute I got into music, it was like sacred for me, and I really wanted to get into it. And then you just got to realize that it's not the same for them, and try to make it as fun as possible. But then also be like, if you don't have to do it. A lot of times I would tell them, you don't have to do it, right? So you can do it, and if you do it, put a little effort in. Like I would tell my students now,
that goes with anything. Like whatever you're gonna do, like. Do that. Like, show up for it.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if it's something that's positive and nice and it's an elective, like music, It's not like it's not a...
Were you teaching at private music schools or like...
I was teaching at private music schools, yeah.
Okay.
And also like kind of music centers for like small towns and stuff like that.
Okay.
And then with my own, when I have private students that are into jazz and whatever, that's the greatest because we can just go into things and
get into some stuff.
Yeah. And obviously they're more passionate about it because they have a specific kind of thing. I did teach. I was subbing at the Silver Lake Conservatory over the summer.
Flea owns, right?
He's co-owner there.
Yeah, co-owner.
I was subbing for a great guitarist called Melissa Doherty. She was super great musician, nice person as well, and she was on tour for the whole summer. And that is a great institution. I like the vibe there, and the students are pretty serious.
Yeah.
And they're like, when I came and I was saying that, I was just in recent years trying to kind of make it fun for the student, and they're like, we're not like so much of a by request for the student kind of school. They have to realize that they.
You get to like prescribe curriculum, kind of.
Yeah, they need to do the work. They need to bring the instrument in its case and have their music ready.
Sure.
And
the
it's
teacher
not
runs the class.
Yeah,
instead of like the other model is the student runs the class.
Pretty much, because now it's also with schools now. 'Cause my mom was an elementary school teacher for 30 years. She retired like a couple of years back, but I would see it. It's back then. The teacher had some authority, had some saying, and this, if the teacher said you were doing something wrong or called your parents, parents believe the teacher. I guess it's, blindly believing one person is always not a great idea, but there was more of a reverence to the person who's teaching your child something. Sure. And nowadays, it's all like, the student, they something was a little bit off and they felt a little wrong, and they would call the teacher. Like my mom would get calls, all throughout the day. She'd come back from school at around 3 or 4, and she'd 7 p.m. on the phone with parents and shit like that.
Because the students were running the class back?
Because, as time progresses, the students kind of take over, and parents, they're more involved. So,
well, I mean, I don't know. I can't. I have my thoughts and opinions on that, but I don't think I have the right to talk about it unless I have children.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
I mean,
like publicly in any capacity.
yeah,
Yeah, like if I had children, then that's a game
yeah. A lot of
changer.
them are assholes now.
Yeah.
We can say. Yeah, a lot of them are assholes.
But the parents or the kids?
Both.
Because I'm going
Yeah.
with both on that.
Both.
Yeah.
But it's okay. I mean, a lot of them aren't assholes, which is, I think, that's the way that humanity works.
Right, there's some over here.
Some of them are
And then,
assholes.
the other ones not
some
so
of
much.
them aren't assholes. It's hard. I think it's getting harder not to be an asshole in this day and age.
Well,
And so it's not their fault most
No.
of the time.
Well, no, I mean I'm sure, just like everybody is to an extent, on some level, we're all a product of our environment.
Right.
So
there's more of a
gotta-
self-centric kind of, flashy, more shallow, I think, thing happening now. Like people are into, it's like the likes and stuff. Or if it's Instagram, then it's music that's designed to be 1 minute, like really,
right,
and
right,
not
yeah.
necessarily
Sure.
saying something. There's great
Man,
musicians out there that
I've
are
had
very
a lot of talks with cats about the internet musician thing, and like there's dudes that can play
and do the internet
and,
thing.
and still like then they'll post something where that's what they do, but like you get them on a gig and they can completely support a singer,
Right.
or if they're a drummer they can just play their part, and it's not all flash. So understanding that, I don't know if everything I see online is all these guys do.
Yeah.
Like you have to give them the benefit of the doubt, is maybe they're the ones like this is the only gig that they have where they get to go for it.
Right.
Because they're stuck in this other, top 40 thing that's paying the bills or something.
Yeah.
And they just got to play. But I do think it's the internet has changed the way musicians
Changed everything.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Changed
I mean,
everything.
of course, it changed
Yeah.
the world.
But lately, in recent years, like very recently, I just feel like it's it's very apparent, the way Instagram works for music and
Sure.
Yeah. Obviously, some of it is good. It connects a lot of people.
Some
like,
of it's
you
good,
know.
and hopefully, maybe inspires beginners or something. They get to
Right.
go hear so many people. On the Bass Shed Instagram, there's a lot of dudes that'll tag me in it, and
Right.
and yeah, they can play.
When they try to make it like more of a communal thing, that's always the best
Sure.
I think results. And
Sharing what you're up to, I think,
Yeah.
is totally cool.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like such a thing to me. Then I guess I keep going back to it, is just having context. If your music has context, everything like musical relevance while you're playing it, but like social,
right.
it has to be of the time. Of the geography is the thing. Like every.
Well, geography is also because everything is open now. I mean, I can play Ethiopian music in New York, and
Sure, but there's a way that New Yorkers would play that versus dudes in L.A.
Right.
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 And I get kind of bummed out about that. Like living in L.A., I moved here when I was 24.
And you're 26 now.
I am 24 and a half.
Yes.
I think, I don't know, maybe it's because of the age. I remember like hearing some dudes trying to sound like they're doing the New York thing, and maybe I was also trying to do that because I'm 24 and still trying to assert myself into something. Then I just adopted, like, LA's a feel-good town.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it is,
Yeah.
It's 77 degrees all year round, and everybody just wants to groove and have fun, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like, we're not going to sound like the edgy New Yorkers. We can't. That's in that thing. That's in their mind. They're confronted with that every day. The most I'm confronted with that is listening to those records.
Uh-huh.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's my only into it.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think of it as more of an open thing. I mean, I don't know. I lived in New York for a long time. I guess I have somewhat of
Has
a New
your
York
playing
vibe.
changed?
Since I moved out here.
Yeah.
Maybe I had more time to practice. So
Out here?
Yeah. I don't think the playing has changed.
You don't think there's,
I
like,
mean,
maybe a different mood to it, or?
hopefully it became better.
Sure.
That's what I hope. But there is a difference of approaches.
Yeah, absolutely.
There is a difference of approaches, but I don't feel that I have to compromise like my thing. It's just it's also with like what I was saying about the students, that I was seeing it from my perspective. So if I come and I play with somebody and I see that there's a different approach, and I try to make something of it, and I
Right.
don't try to force my approach over it. Unless it's something very specific. For example, if you're playing a tune, jazz tune on a session, there's things that should happen. It should swing.
Yeah, I mean,
at some point, unless you
it should be whatever everybody has agreed on that it should be.
Yeah.
It should be that.
So, and if it doesn't go that way, that could be annoying, and I could try to maybe steer it in that direction. But it doesn't happen a lot, and I've enjoyed playing with people here very much. It's a different obviously thing. A different vibe a little bit, but if you're a great musician, not that I am, but the people that I play with, if you make good music, if you're a good musician and you come with it with your soul in there, it's gonna be good. I don't know.
I agree with that.
Call it what you will.
If you commit to it, it'll be good. What's Ambessa got coming up? What are you guys up to?
Ambessa. So we have.
Did I pronounce it wrong?
No, you said it
was
great.
Good. Yeah. I got the band right, but your last name.
Yeah,
wrong.
come on, man.
The Dav Smith.
Yes.
And Ambessa.
And Dave.
Yeah.
And Dave P. Daddy.
Yeah.
I believe.
Nah, Dave.
Yeah,
nah,
exactly. Dave. So we have, we're actually going to go to Chicago next week, but that's an event for United Airlines that we're going to play, which is great.
Okay, what's the date?
Kept in touch with them. That's not open, but it's just,
just private.
But just bragging.
Yeah, do it.
And then we are going to be, we're going to play in New England, in Boston and East Hampton, Massachusetts on March 28th. We're going to be at this place called Arts at the Armory in Boston, and we are going to feature Gilialo, great singer, the person who I was talking to about it, and he has a great project. He's one of my best friends, and we work together on other stuff as well, on his stuff, but we are going to do a joint show with him, which is going to be awesome. We did something in New York because we backed him up on his show when he did a little U.S. tour, and for the West Coast stuff, we had West Coast people. For the East Coast stuff, we had pretty much my band, just minus 2 horns.
Okay.
But then we did like a full band show with him, which was awesome, and we're going to do that again in Boston, and then we're going to go to Connecticut, New Haven, Connecticut. We're playing at the State House. We always love playing in New Haven, and at the State House is a great venue and great crowds, like really warm, environment, and they dig it, and they buy records and stuff like that, which is cool.
Really?
They're
like
really
they actually
support
buying merch.
Yeah, records and shirts. Like they're into it. So we always love playing there, and the venue is great. And then we're gonna play in East Hampton and New City Brewery, which we also played there a little while ago. It was a great crowd.
Okay.
Always fun to play at a brewery.
Yeah.
And then we'll
for
be
obvious reasons.
Yeah, we're gonna record 2 new tracks for this year, and we're gonna release them kind of like one by one. So the first thing we did was an EP, and then we did a record, and now I just want to do a little bit more of like wider releases, you would call it, like have a couple of tunes here, a couple of tunes there, maybe then put out a vinyl.
Yeah.
And everything we do, I should say, for example, the vinyl that we put out is 100% analog. Everything tape,
nice.
Recorded live.
Yeah.
These new tunes might be a little different. It'll be recorded mostly live, but we're gonna separate the the rhythm section and the horn section, and we're gonna do just slightly different. But it's also like everything that we do is very much analog.
Yeah, that's all very noticeable on the.
With the kinks and all.
Yeah. No, that's cool, but it sells that.
Everything on the record, by the way, is like a one take thing.
Yeah, really?
Even the 7-minute songs, and that have like some intricate parts.
Oh wow. Okay,
yeah.
I did not know that.
It's very good musicians that play together very well, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So we're gonna record, and then we are gonna play at Bar Best, which is kind of our home base in Brooklyn.
Okay.
On April 6th. And those are the closest shows that we have, and we always have some projects going, and some stuff happening. So hopefully we'll be out in Europe this summer, or or maybe a little later on because some festival season is kind of closing in.
Yeah.
But we're working on doing more festivals and covering more of the country and of the earth.
Fantastic.
Just, all over it.
Killing. So you're gonna give me all those links. I'll release them with the when I
Yes.
release this. Fantastic.
Yes.
Cool. Thanks so much for doing it, dude.
Dude,
Cool.
thank you for having
Yes, sir. We gotta play it again soon, man. When was
For
that gig?
sure.
Last week?
Yes, at
Yeah.
Chateau Marmont.
Yeah.
When we were super close to the bar, but I didn't have anything to eat, so I drank about 2/3 of a bottle of whiskey on an empty stomach.
Man, I remember doing a gig with Steve like a few days later. Just the sound. The sound was like I could barely hear the piano. It was a great band. Like I would really love to play with, everybody again.
The sound was very weird.
Yeah. Sound is just that, and I hadn't played upright in a few days, and like I was just.
Mm-hmm.
My hands weren't happy. I was wearing out.
It's funny because it seemed like the sound kind of deteriorated as the gig progressed.
Yeah.
You know how these things sometimes go.
But
it's
it
like,
wasn't
why
people.
do they even do it? Why do they mess with the thing?
Right.
But
Whatever.
Yeah.
All right, dude.
It's
Thanks for
fun,
doing
though.
it, man.
Oh, of
right.
course.
All right, folks. So there you have it. That was Nadav Peled. That's his story. I'm sticking to it. If you haven't already, please feel free to reach out, contact me with anything you want to contact me about. Ryan@thebasshed.com, Facebook // I don't know the difference. Facebook the Bass Shed, Instagram @the Bass Shed, and Twitter @Bass Shed. Let me know what's going on. Hit me up. Let's talk. Let's talk bass. Let's talk about gear. Let's talk about records. Let's talk about whatever. Let's talk about whether it's a / or a /. All right, guys. Be good. Talk to you soon.